Hey, so welcome to another episode of the Inquisitive Mind of Louis T. Podcast, where we do deep dives on just things I want to know more about and try to get the best experts that I can. So I'm going to go ahead and let my guests introduce themselves. Start with ladies first.
Hi, I'm Regina McLeod, and I've worked in film and television, I'd say 20 plus years. And so started out from doing everything from PAing to ADing to working in locations, wardrobe, department, and currently have been working more in indie projects as a writer, director, and a producer, and also directing some stage plays, and most recently the work of August Wilson and doing a production of Two Trains Running, and also a production of Jitney.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. And then to your right.
Hey, what's up? My name is Christopher Everett, director and producer of the film Wilmington on Fire. I think everybody in Wilmington knows about that. I guess I started out about 5 years now doing the film, but mostly on the independent level, running my own film production company, which we made Wilmington on Fire, currently filming Wilmington on Fire 2, also a couple of, a martial arts project called Grandmaster. And we're also producing some other indie projects as well. One is called I Don't Live Today. We're shooting that next month in New York. And we do a lot of consulting, with other filmmakers from around the country as well that want to, get knowledge on how to distribute their film themselves, how to market and promote, and do audience building. So we do it all, man.
All right. So, yeah. And then to my right.
Steve Bax. I've been in the business since 1989. Started out in art department, moved over to production. I've done pretty much everything: locations, transportation, producing, production, just everything. So glad to be here.
And he worked on The Wire.
Yes, I did. I worked 2 seasons on The Wire in production.
So this is almost like the Inquisitive Mind of Chris with a mixture of the Inquisitive Mind of Louis T. So I'm gonna let Chris kind of introduce what we're gonna start out and talking, and we're gonna just evolve this conversation. But I mean, I got people of color in the film industry, so we're gonna be talking about the film industry. And I'm gonna just kind of because Chris inspired me, but I'm gonna let him talk about what inspired him to inspire me.
Well, I think I was talking to Louis, we were talking last month, especially about the Tyler Perry speech.
From the BET Awards.
Yeah, the BET Awards, about ownership and stuff like that. It's us as black people, actually owning our stuff within the film industry. And then I think recently Master P has been, saying the same thing, why he's been promoting his project.
My old boss. I used to work with Master P.
Cool. Well, you talk about that. I'd love to hear, about your experience with that too. I guess, with that, and also about the Little Mermaid, casting controversy as well.
Yeah.
So I think all this stuff kind of ties in together. I just want to have a dialogue, man. With people in the industry, and also, other black folks in the industry as well. And we'd love to hear, what you guys think about it.
Yeah, because and if y'all not familiar, Tyler Perry, he did a speech. He now has a role at BET. So at the BET Awards, he had a speech talking about being not being invited to the table or the Oscars. So he built his own, which a lot of people don't know that Master P. Tyler Perry has his own studios in Atlanta. And I recently did watch more of that because I just saw a smaller clip. Right. So either you already saw the clip at the beginning of this, or we're gonna have a link in the bio. So if you're not familiar with that, we'll have that. But yeah, I just 2 filmmakers, and then I got Bax. I know he's worked in film for many years. I think I've known Bax longer than I've known Bax and Regina for a long time, and because I know Chris was coming from a filmmaker aspect, but I feel like as a business, build it from the ground up,
Right.
Black. So that's why I just want to have curious about all y'all all y'all different takes, because
Right.
as we get in, I made a little documentary short,
Right.
but so I'm trying to be cool like y'all. But for me and Chris, I had Chris on a previous episode. Tyler Perry as the actor, maybe, or his. I guess let me back up. So Tyler Perry's product. Me and Chris, and most of the people on there wasn't very big fans,
Right.
but we do respect what he did, and has done, and is doing. Like, if y'all seen that, when y'all saw Tyler Perry, and did that make you feel anything? Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, with him, it made me understand where his product came from, because he spoke very highly about his mother and the group of women, and how he used to sit off to the side and listen to them tell stories and everything.
Right.
So that makes the sense of where he is,
Right.
and where his mentality, and his father abusing his mom. So that's why most of his motivation for his stories are to strengthen the black woman and stuff like that. I think it's a little too much with the Medea character, but now I respect it more.
Yeah.
So,
Same.
yeah.
Do you respect it more, or respect what he's done more?
The story.
The story,
more,
are you
not what
okay?
he's done more.
Okay.
So him starting out the way he started out, like anybody else, selling tapes on the street, DVDs on the street, and then maturing into what he is now through Oprah.
Right.
That's that's an achievement. But we all don't get that opportunity.
Right.
We all can't get to Oprah and say, hey, there's this man sitting there, Chris, that's doing this, and then all of a sudden Oprah calls Chris up and says, hey, yo, Chris, come see my show, and then you blow up that way. That's what happened to him. Very unique situation.
Right.
And then us in his speech saying we need to take ownership. Yeah, we can self-distribute and everything, but we still don't have the power to do the real distribution of it. We can distribute in our local communities, like a gentleman I met at the mall the other day. Yeah, you can do it, but to get to where Tyler is, you need the money. He still doesn't have the distribution power. That's Lionsgate.
He doesn't own a studio.
Yeah, but
You
he
know,
owns a studio, and
a distribution company.
Yeah, he doesn't own the distribution. I mean, the last person I heard of any real relevance in power did it was Magic Johnson.
Right.
He has his own. He had a distributed thing. He bought a bunch of theaters and stuff like that.
It didn't even last long.
And it didn't even last long because we didn't promote it.
Yeah. And I think, Louis, we talked about that last time.
Yeah.
When I tell you, man, how much it just costs to just promote a film. I don't think a lot of people realize that, man. Like, when film will get made for like, $80 to $100 million, and they put like $300 million in promotion. And this goes back to what you were saying. Like, even when we see the Super Bowl, man, I think the cheapest commercial is like $1.5 million.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like it's big money into like market these things.
And I'm sure Regina could probably speak to this, but that's just normal marketing.
Right.
To get to be an Oscar or any kind of awards in these film festivals, a lot of that stuff you got to pay for that. Like none of,
absolutely.
Like to me, as someone that's getting more and more involved with things involving film, learning more, like looking behind that sheet, and just watching stuff online, you don't realize like to be mentioned in an Oscar, that conversation that has a price tag to it. So you can have a Oscar worthy product, but if you don't have that Oscar worthy budget, you won't get there. So.
Yeah, because they still have to vie and push and promote to be considered. Yeah. And there's money involved. There's money that's got to be put out for that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Like Get Out and the newer black films that are getting recognition, I don't think they're putting that much into it. It's once the distributors get it, the Lionsgates, the Warner Brothers, and the distributors get it, then that's when there's the recognition that comes from the Oscars and all the other things.
Right.
We don't need to do it from our end. We need to get it to them for them to recognize it.
But I mean, that almost goes against what Tyler was saying. Like Tyler,
Exactly.
you know, is like,
Exactly.
you know, so it's like, dude. So I mean, and I think that just all, you know, overall, that's the divide. At one step, we care about the Oscars and what the white man thinks or the industry thinks, and then the other man is like, nah, boycott them. We doing our own. But we're always divided. It's either which one is it? Like 1 year we riding with, you know, oh, but they put Beyonce on the show. Okay, we with the Oscars.
I know my stance, man. You know, I've told you this before, man. I don't, you know, the Oscars is whatever, you know, to me.
Yeah, they don't care. People don't care about the Oscars. Even people that I know that have been in the business forever that are white, they was like, it's just a pomp and circumstance of just to pat each other on the back, and they don't care.
How about you, Regina?
I agree and I disagree because, I mean, you know, it's the industry standard and it represents what's supposed to be the highest accolades that you can get in the film industry. And it does carry some weight to be able to say Oscar nominated or Oscar winner. However, when it comes to black actors, when it comes to black film, you know, it's a double entendre. It's not the same. Doesn't have the same meaning. It doesn't have the same power because we have had black actors that have won Academy Awards and they're still getting garbage scripts, or you know, they're not getting the
award for that garbage script. That's I mean, like Halle Berry, Denzel, when they finally got out of all the stuff they did, what they decided to give their awards for.
Well, I mean, in the scripts weren't necessarily garbage. It may not have been the performance we thought they should have gotten the nomination or the win for. You know, I mean,
again, making my words sound better.
So,
That's what I meant.
you know, but the point being
Yeah.
that that's supposed to up your game.
Right.
You're supposed to get, you know, the best of the best scripts and the best offers and everything, but that is not necessarily what happens for us.
But that's when you write a story about a black person that everybody can relate to, whether they be black, white.
It's a mainstream story that can be anyone's family.
Right. Which we'll get into later on with The Little Mermaid.
Right. So, I mean, but it should do that. When you look at actors like Jamie Foxx, when you look at actors like Halle Berry, and people get aged out sometimes, but at the same time, where are our stories? Where are,
That's
you know,
not about slavery.
That's
not
and even
about,
if it is,
but I mean,
well, who can tell that story better?
It's true.
You know, what perspective is the better way to tell that story? I mean, you know, so.
But then again, when we tell that story, when we tell it, we get blackballed. Like, what's the movie we always talk about?
Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation. You know, like they started bringing up all old receipts on this guy, and I felt like that movie was a great movie. I brought it on DVD. I went to the movies and saw it, and it, you know, a black history by a black person talking about.
Did they see the original?
It wasn't. It was a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't take away from the fact that it was a good script and it was a good story. Unfortunately, what happened was his past.
Yeah.
You know, his personal life is what put a shadow over that. But that brother's coming back. His name escapes me at the moment.
Nate
but
Parker. Nate Parker.
Yeah. So, you know, he's things die down after a while, and the cream rises back to the top, and so, you know, he's got something that's that's supposed to be coming out. Yeah.
So, like, what do y'all think about? I guess, you know, just going back to what you were saying, that, you know, I know the big topic of reparations has been coming up, and that deals with having, you know, us not having the capital to maybe, if we had a film company, you know, to expand and grow and, you know, be able to self-distribute more and all that stuff. Since we don't have that
anymore, because we did at one time.
So we don't have that. I guess what do we need to do as black creatives to continue moving forward, you know, and not wait on Hollywood per se.
I mean, I feel like, well, it looks like they're thinking because they got something deep, but I feel like as of right now, we have the means, you like, and I kind of mentioned this to Regina when I saw her the other day. Technology, for better or worse, have allow people to be able. If you're creative and you can get some money, you can almost grind it out like a mixtape and work your way up.
All right.
You know what I mean? Like shout out to Drew. Drew's he was almost going to be on the show, but he's grinding his way up. And I haven't seen the show, but people always talk about it. Money and Violence, I believe, like on YouTube. Like you can grind. There's people from Vine. That took Vine, took it to Instagram, and now they're on like Netflix, like King Bite and all that. So I feel like, and I mean that's still like in front of the camera, but there's people behind those cameras shooting it too. So I mean, I feel like you don't necessarily, depending on what your goal is, you can invest in yourself, and if you have that talent, like in some of the films that I saw at the Poetry Jam, like very creative, didn't cost a lot of money, but still it didn't take away what they did because they were artists and they knew how to tell the message that they wanted to tell.
Well, thank you, because one of those happened to be mine.
Exactly. I didn't hear anything about it at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
So what do y'all think?
How big do you want to get in distribution? Do you want to, it's like I referenced before about selling the mixtapes on the corner.
Yeah.
The music mixtape. You start on your corner.
But 50 Cent started on
exactly.
mixtape.
That's what I'm saying. And then he grew.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you got to have this tape. I'm down here in North Carolina. I'm from New York. I used to go home all the time just to go get that mixtape from the corner in Jamaica to get that tape. So I come down here. Yo, where'd you get that tape from?
Yeah.
Hey, I got it from up in New York.
Yeah.
And then it grows. And the same thing in Atlanta. Atlanta did it. Chicago did it. Wherever, Detroit, wherever that's how. And then you expand it. That's how we started, right? But the word has to get out from all of us.
Yeah.
Hey, you got to check out Lewis's stuff. You got to check out Regina's stuff. You got to check out Chris's stuff. And then hey, here's this, and however you want to get it out, and then somebody bigger is going to hear it. Yeah. Going back to Tyler Perry, the one thing he did say in his speech was that he used the N-word. I'm the N-word that owns the land that this thing was on, right? And I have these black kids on the outside looking at me on the inside, and I'm the head in here on this land, right? But Tyler, are you letting these black kids in there into your spot so they can help do what you did?
Right. That's a good question.
And I can tell you that answer. No, he's not.
No type of mentoring program teaching young filmmakers.
He's an inspiration, though. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. So
he's
then,
these kids that this could be you.
It could be you, but why can't you pull me in there to help me be me?
I mean, I feel both ways. Like, you can't help everybody, and I'm not saying him. I'm not talking about him personally.
He could help it.
They're
there. He's right there.
Like one of my previous topics when we were talking about music, like we're talking about like J. Cole and so people thought that J. Cole was going to come back to Federal and sign every rapper in Federal. You know what I mean? And we all, you can't. Sometimes I feel like you got people. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I don't know what he's doing.
I'm not saying there's 1,000 kids sitting out in his thing. Yeah. Be Willy Wonka, man. Yeah. Go ahead, be Willy Wonka. Take them 5 kids,
Get
come
that golden
in,
ticket.
And then one kid. Okay, if you could get 1 out of 5 kids coming in and doing a thing, then true. Yeah. I'm not saying 1,000 kids open the floodgates and let them all in. Yeah. But have somebody come in.
Okay.
And there's the opportunity for that to happen. We let's be hopeful that it's about somebody spearheading that. Maybe he has not thought of it that way, and maybe somebody else under him can do that. All it does is take a whisper. I'm gonna be hopeful about it because it's important. It's important because the only way really to get that experience and that knowledge is to do it.
Right.
And there's I'm happy for a lot of the indie filmmakers, the guerrilla filmmakers that get out there and that really, make it happen. But at the same time, if these folks want to get a paycheck, they got to know how to do that job right. And, it's all, it's all about who you know.
Right.
So that once you get that training and you know what you're doing, you be able to get on a project and then you find out about something else and be able to go from, project to project and make a living and, pay your bills.
And here in Wilmington especially, I don't know how many black kids there are in the film programs in either UNCW or Cape Fear. I haven't seen any. Right. They're either afraid or they're not given that opportunity. Hey, you should. I am so refreshed when I see a black face in film in Wilmington.
Well, yeah.
I'm joyful. I'm like, a black person, and I run up to them like I'm crazy.
I know.
Because, hey, who are you? What are you doing? Yeah. Other than the typical stuff, and a lot of it is a nepotism. Hey, my uncle's this person, my aunt's this person, and stuff like that.
And not only that, but also from project to project, especially if it's television, and you can attest to this more than I can. It's a very locked in thing where if they're on the lot working on a particular show, as soon as they hear about something else and they trying to find out when this goes on hiatus or what's ever happened, they trying to get over here on here. And it's not in a situation where it's really open to everybody.
Right.
You got to find out when the production offices are opening and when you can get stuff in there. So, there's a way to do it.
Right.
And we're not all privy to that all the time.
About the new young group of people coming in. Mm-hmm. That's more of what I'm talking about.
So, like, are what we talking about everything? Because we're all old. I mean, I'm not older, but I feel like we're Baxter's older. But I mean, we feel like we're like in the middle, kind of, in between, kind of the old guard and the new guard. Because I feel like kind of what we've been talking about is the old guard, like Oscars, Lionsgate, and all that stuff. As us, as black creators, do we even need that anymore? Like, you got Netflix.
I know, like what I've done, man.
Right.
Just with Wilmington Fire, for example. I didn't live in New York. I didn't even live here in Wilmington. I lived in Laurinburg, North Carolina, man, where ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's how I pretty much...
A blip on the way to Charlotte.
Right. So I had to really figure out, say, okay, what I need to do to figure this thing out. So I just started figuring out the internet. And I was just able to catch some wave. And, it's been 4 years. The film still does strong. Still do 2 to 4 screenings a month. They just shouted us out in Congress for the reparations thing, which was huge, spiking them sales up again. But yeah, the film does well. And I know my lane. I know I'm not trying to go all over the world, not trying to go over the country. I know North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, that's my base. And that's where I stick with.
Because it's about here.
Right. And the other projects I'm involved in,
too.
But see,
I disagree with that. Because what his thing is about, that should
it's
be...
It's about history, but shoot what you know.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to say.
But also, like my whole point, though, is that I think that a lot of people sleep on the Southeast in regards to people wanting to see independent film, because I deal with other type of films. So a lot of people just think about Wilmington on Fire, and I'm involved in a whole bunch of projects. Don't talk about it that much, and we do great screenings.
Like Against the Fight, was it against?
Like As an Act of Protest. We're doing some screenings in New York next month. We just got accepted into the Cuban Institute of Cinematography or something, for that film.
Talk about
and so. The Southeast, man, is really popping that a lot of people don't realize is that I think the baby talked about it in regards to just hip hop. When he was talking about North Carolina as a whole, like you can get some money here, you know what I'm saying, and really do it. And it works this kind of same way for film. You just got to know how to work it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's where that's where I come in with my company. That's what we've been doing. And we do pretty well at doing it, showing people how to navigate North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia on an independent level. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about what's going on in Chicago, L.A. We do stuff out there.
Is that with the incentives that we have here or the grant we have here?
Pretty much, like what I'm talking about is like self-distribution.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Just how to navigate that type of thing.
So what about Netflix, Hulu?
Right.
Dame Dash has Dame Dash Studios now where he's trying to be his own Netflix.
Right.
Like what about those? Like what about those avenues? And is that
me personally? I don't really, It depends on the project. You know what I'm saying? Like if you gotta, like I tell some people all the time, doing certain festivals might not be for you. Like me, for example, like, we're working on Wilmington on Fire too. I might not premiere that at Cucalours. I can just rent Thalia myself and
Yeah.
just I can just make 10, 20 grand myself. You know, why would I let a festival do that when I know I got an audience in Wilmington, same in Durham? You know, why would I do a festival and I can just rent the Carolina Theater 1,000 seats and charge $15, $20 a ticket that the festival's going to do, and I can just walk away with 20.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that's how I look at it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Netflix, as far as distribution, though, how they recognize your piece. If Chris has a piece or Regina has a piece, they're looking at who's going to watch it.
right.
So they have to have a B list actor in it for them to even look at it. Say,
Right.
and then it goes this way. If you
Right.
have local thing, they're going like,
Yeah, they're kind of like, because they did a study, because like Adam Sandler has all this content on there. They gave him a big deal, and all that data. That's what really Netflix is about, man. They just collecting all this data, so they'll end up just selling it for like billions and trillions of dollars. But they figured out that a lot of people actually like watching Adam Sandler, not in the movie theaters, but at home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
and his product's not.
It's not great, but they just like watching his
He has a
stuff at
niche
home.
audience. Yeah.
And that's what Netflix gave them that deal, just based off the data that they
Well,
collect.
shoot, look, the movie with Will Smith, you can tell that was like a computer spitting out ideas. It's like, okay, it's about an elf. It's about police brutality.
Right.
Have a black lead.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just like a cookie cutter.
I think I missed
Right,
that one.
right.
Right, yeah.
Oh.
It's a movie with Bright.
Did you say an elf?
It had a,
You call it, he's an alien.
it does, it's-
That's what
no,
through
it's like
me
an
off.
elf.
An
what they
elf
call
or
it.
alien?
No, it's not alien. It's almost like a fairy tale world. They got like
Oh.
fairies, orc.
Yeah.
He's actually an orc, I
orc.
think.
Yeah.
You know what I
He
mean?
looks
Like, so it's like
yeah.
it's like Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings, Bad Boy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
But you,
like
but
a
you
It was
see,
household.
but you
confusing.
see, it went right to Netflix
Right.
because of who it was.
Right.
He's the only real main star in there,
Right.
and they said Will Smith got this. Oh,
But
yeah,
some-
sure.
but I
and,
bet
they-
some of those
and that
numbers
thing's still
fit.
on. It's still on Netflix,
Oh, it's still.
and it's been
front-
I haven't
years.
seen it.
Yeah, that's the first thing that pops up.
Yeah.
So it's and there's another
I feel
project
like
that I'm
a
trying to
machine
get.
Probably said that. It's
There's
like
another
Yeah.
project
Will
I'm
Smith
trying to
or
get
Kevin
involved
Hart.
in.
They probably have a
Same
name, a list of black names, and they'll make it work.
That's how you do it. Projects I'm working on, if I want to, help that person or make money, it's who I got. The story has to be I'm interested in it.
Right.
2 is who we're going to get in there to
Right.
get the money.
Right.
And you get
Yeah.
those 3 things, the distribution falls right in line.
Yeah.
So, how do y'all feel about this Little Mermaid Ariel thing? Because, I mean, I feel like one of the things about owning your own is being able to tell your own story.
Right.
I mean, even though this is not us really telling our own story, but, you know, I don't think y'all were y'all even, before I brought it up, were y'all familiar with
Yes.
what was going on with?
Yes, my coworkers and I had a long
Yeah.
discussion about it, and it's half and half. A
Right.
lot of them said it's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
It was written by Hans Christian Andersen back in the day. It's a fairy tale. It's not real,
Right.
right?
Right.
Now, these crazy people are going around saying, scientists saying that there's no way scientifically that this person, a fictional character could be real or be black is ridiculous.
But you know how it's funny because now when like in the comic book world it's the same thing.
Yeah.
When we say well Superman could actually be black because of the science aspect, being he gets his energy from the sun. That's how he gets his powers when he's on Earth. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? When we bring that up, they don't want to hear that. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But when it's the opposite, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up.
Right.
There can be a black Superman.
Right. Let's make
Can there be a black Kal-El? That's the thing.
Right.
Just like another thing is James Bond argument.
Right.
They wanted Idris Elba to play James Bond.
Right.
I don't agree with it because Ian Fleming's character was not written as a black man.
Right. Right.
But he can be a 007 and tear it up.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Regina, you as a black queen, do you have daughters?
I have one daughter.
You have a daughter. How do you feel about a black Ariel, Little Mermaid?
I have mixed feelings about it. A part of me is like on that whole, like, I guess what one would call authenticity, but I don't really know what's authentic anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Does that
Because
even exist anymore?
right, really, because if you really want to go back to origins, you know what I'm saying, and they talk about Greece, Hans Christian Andersen and the Danish aspect and who were the first Greeks and just the Dane and all this, but so at the same time though, I understand and I see that there is a need for inclusivity, and we're having a problem with that. And there are not a lot of Disney or animation or fairy tale stories. They're not showing enough of for young black girls.
But do they? Is it necessary?
Is it necessary to
have that black character for the young kids? Because kids don't see color when they're little. They just, if
they see color.
My nieces and nephews are not going to say, Uncle Steve, why isn't Ariel black? From the first one.
Well, I'm gonna speak from the aspect of being a little black girl growing up in America, where you see all these these dolls, particularly at that time, Barbie, and you don't really see that many dolls that look like you. So I think that to have that representation there is pretty
70s, right?
is important. No, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, so
70s,
so
you was like
no,
two,
I had
when
black
you were
Barbies.
When you were two, yeah.
I had
why did she have to be a black Barbie?
Barbie was a very popular doll,
I
and there needs to be representation. We need to see images
So
and positive images.
Her sister girlfriend,
Christy, I know.
Christy,
I
a
know
little
about
sister
Christy.
girlfriend.
I know. I had Christy. So there needs to be there. And then I can also talk about Princess and the Frog. I mean, when we're looking at pretty much the first black Disney princess, but for most of the film, you didn't see her as a princess or as a person. You saw her as a frog.
I didn't know that. I haven't seen it. I don't watch a lot of Disney films.
Right. No. Yeah. So it needs to be there. But back to Ariel, I understand the push behind it. I understand that they're recognizing more the power of the black woman in America, the power of the dollar that we spend. And all of that really has to do also with the fact that, the most merchandising-wise, the most films that are successful as far as Disney concerned are ones that have female leads in them because they're the dolls or all the toys and everything that goes along with that. And so that's number one. And then number two, we don't really see that much of it in terms of, like I said, the black representation. But what's going to be interesting, I feel, is to see how they're going to handle King Triton and the rest of the daughters. They may have a whole blended family. King Triton may be one that just got around and all his daughters look different.
Yeah.
And I feel that's the best way to handle it.
I think they've been, some people been trying to campaign for Idris,
to do the voice of King Triton.
Yeah.
But
No,
I mean, there's
I've seen,
blended
Ted
families. People
Cruz-
look
Ted
different.
Cruz.
Yeah, I think he campaigning.
Yeah, he's campaigning.
He wants to be King Triton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but is that to say that all of them, that all these characters are going to be black?
Right.
We don't know that.
I think you remember they did the thing with Brandy, with Cinderella.
Cinderella with Brandy.
I think they're gonna do something.
That's what I
similar,
think.
You know what I'm saying, like a multicultural cast.
That's what I think.
That's what I think they're gonna do, man. I don't see nothing wrong with that.
I mean, this
Yeah.
is
You know,
how,
Disney
don't-
getting all the money. So.
yeah,
It
exactly.
has
Just
nothing
like
to do
Black
with it's not
Panther.
coming out.
I was
Yeah.
I was just there in Disney World, and believe
Kill.
me, I mean, they are killing it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's-
I mean, they got this year alone. They got Avengers.
Yeah.
They got
Yeah.
Lion King. They got Aladdin.
And then
Both of those are Avengers and Aladdin are $1 billion movies.
and then,
Yeah.
And
Black
I know Lion
Panther,
King's
Black
gonna do that.
Panther. You know what I'm saying?
That was
Kill-
last
Yeah.
year.
killing with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What
I
disturbed me
mean-
about Black Panther was
Yeah.
Wait,
they-
hold on. Wait. So, my take on the whole Ariel thing is, if they are trying to exploit us, I'm almost on the other side with the racists. Like, I don't. You know what I mean? It's like if you're just trying to exploit
But
it.
ain't nobody. They ain't gonna come out and say we exploit you.
Oh
Say
no, but yeah,
1930.
but
You
yeah,
know
if
what I'm
they, but
saying?
yeah,
they
but
gotta
I'm
be
just saying,
PC about it.
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
but if they're like, hey, we want this black person to to recapture the Black Panther thing, then yeah, I'm not really
Well,
for
they're
that.
not gonna say
But
that
if they got
yeah.
Haley is the best, like if they interviewed multicultural people, and because Haley can sing, she's attractive, and whatever, she fit the mold, and she was the best candidate, then I think we should get the job. I mean, it's almost like affirmative action.
Yeah, they had
You
a
know,
whole
Yeah.
they had a whole open casting call for it. They didn't say we want a redhead
Yeah.
Right.
I think they had an open
right.
to
mind
do it. They had an
for the whole
open
thing,
thing,
you know.
and she got the job because she was the best person for that job.
And so they're going to build this, I guess, around the fact that they've cast her in this role.
Exactly.
So
Because like what Chris was saying, and there's I know he goes by Young Ripper on YouTube, but he's on the opposite. Like he talks about comic book movies and stuff like that. Say he doesn't tokenizing. He's always talking about tokenizing. So yeah, if they're tokenizing her, then I'm not
agree with that they're doing that.
Yeah.
They're not
So,
doing
but if they're not doing that, if it, you know what I mean, like affirmative action. If it's between a white person and a black person, yeah, give it to the black person. Especially if the black person is the best person for that role.
Right.
But yeah,
I
like,
mean, you could look at it as a form of, on some level, as reparations. So you know,
like you said, the money's still going back to Disney.
at the end of the
so-
day,
right?
it's all about
But I
money,
mean,
man.
you know, it could be about position too.
Yeah. So what were you saying about
So
Black Panther?
with Black Panther, what disturbed me about it was how we ran out to go see that movie.
Right.
The biggest black movie ever made. Shaka Zulu was first, right? But the thing was, they don't know the history of the Black Panther comic, going back Marvel back to the World War II.
But it did bring people. I've had comic book people like the Memory Lanes on here, and I talked to them. Those guys. It did infuse a lot of people who did not go to comic book stores. So
I understand that.
We went back to learn.
My friend up at home in New York was like, he didn't get it because he didn't know the backstory.
Right.
So I thought it was kind of exploitive.
I mean, I don't think it's like 'cause me and Chris are comic book people.
Comic
so
book nerds
Yeah,
would feel
so-
that way.
I'm a comic book nerd, then, I guess, because I was like, well, you know, it's World War II. This is what this happened. This is what this happened, and they just completely dismissed all this. Right. His dad got killed in the which one was that with
Captain America.
Captain America.
Civil War,
What do you call it? The whatever that one was, and
Captain America. Civil
but his
War.
father was in World War II.
T'Challa.
T'Challa was in World War II, and it was, and they were doing all that stuff, and it's okay.
I mean, you getting too deep in it?
Comic book
I think they
nerds.
tried to kind of adapt it for the day. You know?
Yeah.
More modernized
Yeah.
it, you know what I'm saying? Even with the Killmonger character.
But I
you know,
guess-
they
yeah.
modernized him.
Right.
You know.
But I guess you have to just, you know, what's the takeaway from it? You know what I mean? You know, for the new people or people like myself that wasn't that deep into the whole comic book culture, but it's relevant, it was important, and, you know, it set a precedence for as far as what we would consider black film.
Yeah, I felt like, and we can use this to start kind of like wrapping it up. But even though that wasn't to me, I don't feel like that was a black movie. It did show the importance of the black dollar. It was an all-black cast, a black director, and I felt like it helped spearhead that black experience. Like it kind of helped. Like Ava got a big deal with Warner Brothers, and I feel like Black Panther and Ryan Coogler helped that. Not to knock what she's been doing, her work helped her get that, but the fact that people we can have like, hey, white people don't mind going to go see an all-black movie as long as it's good.
Well, they were editing at the same time, you know,
But I
but
know,
regular
man.
time. But I wanted to ask you a question real quick, though. Why didn't you consider it a black movie?
To me, it was just a comic. I mean, well, and if you look, I'm gonna put a link before. If you look in our previous podcast, what is a black movie? It's a Disney movie that had black people. I mean, so it.
But somebody's got to distribute it. So, and we, again, going back to what we were saying before, you know, we're the black distribution companies. So for that
Exactly.
said,
But-
then that means there are no black movies because the
Wilmington on
Lincoln
Fire?
Motor Company, huh?
Lincoln
Well,
Motor
I'm
Company.
saying
Wilmington on Fire.
mainstream. No disrespect to my bro right here. You know, but what I'm saying is, if that's the case, then none of those can. You know, we don't have anything outside of the indie world that would be considered a black movie, black film.
Well, I mean, it is definitely a movie directed by black. but a black person starring black people, probably written by white people.
Yeah, that was one of your
No,
other
Ryan
segments,
Coogler wrote.
What constitutes a black
movie.
But
yeah.
the
Right.
thing is, Disney owns the character. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like at the end of the day, it's not our thing. You know?
Yeah.
And that's one of, because I work with a lot of black comic book writers, graphic novelists, and they all thought that the success of Black Panther was going to trickle down to the work they've been doing over the years. Creating black comic characters and owning them. They thought they was going to, the support would trickle down. It just never does for some reason.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm trying to wonder, about. Like, we praising Black Panther and like, okay, it's cool to have a black comic book character, but yet you got brothers and sisters that's creating work like that. They actually own the characters, but they can't get the same support. And that's why I'm always conflicted.
And a lot of that has to do with that name being attached to a project, and it has to do with that budget,
Kind of
unfortunately. But yeah.
What Bax was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know, prime example. All right, so one of my guys, they do comic conventions all the time, all over the country, and they even say it, man. When they set up shop, a lot of times they're like some of the top people that's there at the convention. These are brothers, and a lot of times black people just walk past them. You know what I'm saying? And go to the white, comic book artists. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So it's like, and then the white comic book artists would tell them, man, well, you need to see my man Wally. He's the guy. You know what I'm saying? If you really want some dope stuff, you need to go see him. Why did you come over here?
So not even just and to start kind of winding it down and wrapping on. What's in your opinion? What's the answer?
I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm just gonna try to continue what I do, because these guys, we working together now, trying to develop something, for like just movie wise, and just try to start small and do what we do. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to do what I can.
Can I say something real quick? And
You don't have to
so
be quick. Take your time.
I just got off of working on Swamp Thing,
Cool.
right?
Warner
And
Brothers.
which is a Warner Brothers thing. I had the top people that make the decisions in my van,
Right.
right? And I had the guy who makes the decision for DC Comic in my van. And I said, hey, I got this idea for this project that I've been sitting on for years. Let me pitch it to you. And I had pitched it to Tolan Robbins when they did One Tree Hill here, who did Smallville. It was about Green Lantern, John Stewart, as a young black kid, right? This man looked at me and said, man, that's a great idea, right? And by the time I finished that thing, he said, man, I think that'd be a hard sell and blah, blah, blah. And I looked at him, I said, you're going to steal this motherfucker, aren't you? Right?
Probably.
And I told the head writer, the same story from Swamp Thing, told him the whole situation. I said, he's going to steal it, right? He said, probably.
Yeah.
So if you have no power with it,
Yes, they own the character.
and I had they own the character.
Yeah, because you can't do
Yeah.
that.
That's
Yeah.
just like you saying something like, man, I got a great idea for Wilmington on
But
5-3.
but see,
I
Chris,
use
the
that
thing
joke.
you could say is,
Right.
okay, pitch me what your idea is,
Right.
and we could possibly collaborate.
Oh
on
yeah,
it.
yeah. I definitely.
They
would
don't
put you
want to
on.
see. They
Yeah.
don't want to see us. I'm a van driver.
Right.
That was my position there. They don't
Right.
know the writing part, stuff like
They
that.
don't
They
know,
don't know
right.
any of the other
Right.
things I do.
Right.
All they see is a black man right there that's
Right.
driving me around. How
Right.
dare you tell me about
audacity.
Right.
to tell me about a story that we own?
Right.
You didn't think about this? And that would get our black audience in there. Get those black kids, the teenagers.
But how-
But
I
then you see
still-
Stranger Things, all these little white kids,
Right.
and it's killing it.
Right.
And they're all this, and they have one black character in there.
Two now.
The little girl we're talking.
Her
Yeah, the
sister-
little,
yeah.
the little sister. Okay,
Yeah.
that's season 3.
Right.
As a whole, as black people, we don't care about those two characters.
Yeah.
We really don't.
I ride
They're
for,
not
I
the-
ride for
It's kind
Lucas.
of like Winston and Ghostbusters. You know,
Exactly.
Yeah, you're the
Right.
Winston and Ghostbusters. That's what you are.
Right. Right.
So once
So-
you get up there in the character, like Millie Bobby Brown, who I'm trying to get for a project here, she'll kill it.
Right.
And Netflix will buy our project because of her.
Right.
Yeah.
Not because if she was a black character, they don't care.
But Netflix is investing in, like I said, King Back and a lot of his people. Like that's a black comedian, I guess you would call him, and him and Melvin. I forget Melvin something or another. They run in a little Instagram from Vine Family Collective, and they kind of run, and I see them because Netflix, they have their own studio now, finally, and then you see a lot of the same people popping up in those people. It's kind of like what Regina was saying. It's like, oh, so one thing probably closes, and they probably get wind of something else, so they pop up over there.
It's what your audience is. Who am I chasing? What audience am I chasing? That's the one thing.
Right.
You know, with us black independent filmmakers, who's our audience and who we try, like you said, not pass by. That brother I saw in the mall thing, the amount of black people that pass right by this dude who's sitting there, and he's doing his own thing, and I was like, no, I'm not going to be that guy. Because it would be a disrespect to myself and to him to walk right by him and not come and even talk to him. You know, hey, I this is what I do. Right. Tell me about you.
Yeah. Right. Even if you don't buy a DVD, just chopping it up with them. Maybe you can collab, man. That's how I make a lot of my connections.
And that's what I was thinking about as far as collabs are concerned, as far as indie filmmakers, writers, producers, and people that know, like yourself, about distribution. And you mentioned it earlier in terms of, you know, working with other projects and other teams. I think we have an obligation to, you know, to hook up and to spread what we know and to try to help people take their projects to the next level. You know, and I think that's the future of it. It's just like there was a time period where, you know, you had a few black filmmakers that were doing and they were just like in their little bubble, like, okay, I got mine, you need to work on getting yours. Or maybe they would tell a little bit of information here and there.
And you notice, I think, and you might be talking about some of the filmmakers that was in this recent article, the New York Times did an article about, you know, black filmmakers during that era, that phase of the boom. You know, Ernest Dickinson and all them, and they said, you know, they got a couple films that they kind of got shut out. You know, to me, it's like those filmmakers, I guess, thought that, you know, they were in the game, you know, inside of it, and just, you know what I'm saying, it's just kind of going back what you were saying. Then you find out that it wasn't all that what we thought it was.
They only give us they only give us a certain amount that golden ticket though.
Right.
You know,
right.
They only give, you know, this, and I'm not going to name names, and from directors to producers to directors even. They only give certain amount of people that golden ticket. Right. And then I got that golden ticket. I'm not going to give Lewis and Chris and Regina part of that golden ticket.
And so
because it's my ticket, and they don't want to hear it. They don't, you know, what are you doing giving them? What are you doing giving them 3 pieces of your ticket?
Right.
But there's enough for everybody.
That's kind of the Tyler Perry thing that's what I'm saying. Kind of like tying it back to, like, hey, I mean, I'll be my inspiration on my side of the fence.
Yeah.
And now it's your side to go. You go ahead and buy your slave quarters.
Right. Well, I feel like these people that are calling themselves producers, you know, they have an obligation to produce. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's your own product. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You got to go out there because there's a lot of really smart, creative, ingenious individuals out there, filmmakers, writers, you know, directors. You know, put some folks on. Right. You know, and the subject matter and the type of films there are, it runs the gamut. Yeah. So there's something for everybody's taste. Yeah. And people just need to really think about putting people on. It's that time period that we need to go back to and remember. Some of us were not born then, but when filmmakers, you know, black filmmakers, they were doing their thing. Mm-hmm. Nobody wasn't thinking about black film, but there were some filmmakers, Oscar Michaud, there are other ones, what was the Lincoln Motor, they were making, you know, they were a film production company where where you've got to come together and make your, you know, help each other and make these and help us to get these projects out here. It's enough for everybody.
The Motown of film.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Right. Anybody like to just go around? Any of the last words everybody want to say? Shout your social media, what you got coming out, anything like that.
Well, I'll start off. Again, you know, Chris Everett. Check out Wilmington on Fire at wilmingtononfire.com. Be on the lookout for as an act of protest as well. We're putting that on DVD in September. Got a great screening coming up in New York, in Manhattan at the People's Forum, August 9th at 7 o'clock. And we're also begin shooting I Don't Live Today, the narrative indie in New York next month as well. So check out that.
Brother should have went last.
I got nothing. I'm doing me.
Right. Now, I've got a couple of things that I'm going to be shooting this summer, and going back into the theater in October to do Jitney at the Cape Fear Playhouse, and I think that's pretty much it.
Where can
Yeah.
people find you or get in contact with you? Or do you want to be found?
Sometimes. But my production company is Cloud9 Productions, CLEOD, and spell out the word 9, Productions with an S. So I can be contacted on Facebook. And yeah, that's the best way to do it. I'll just leave it at that.
All right.
Yeah.
Bax.
Steve Bax, while I'm finishing up my transportation stint, working on finishing on a couple of scripts, one called The Ghost of Mrs. Moore. The other one is Imitation of Life. Those are two of my favorite movies, the originals, and I'm just doing my little adaptations to them, and hopefully I'll be finishing them soon to pass them on to see if we can get them done.
All right, and Louis T, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. IMoLTPodcast on YouTube. We got the Culture Pop coming August 17th at K2 Sweets. It's going to be a pop shop collective. Instagram, IMoLTPodcast as well. And Inquisitive Mind of Louis T on Facebook. And make sure you share, like, tell a friend, tell a friend, and hit subscribe. Thank you for and sponsors. If you want to be a sponsor, you can hit me up at mind@louist@gmail.com for any sponsor inquiries. And thank y'all for coming.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
for
us.
having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.